I'm sitting in this stinking interrogation room, and the handcuffs are digging into my wrists. Across from me is a detective with a face carved out of stone. He looks at me like a rat caught in a trap. On the table between us is a tape recorder, its red light blinking like it's mocking me. I'm being accused. Of what? They haven't said it outright yet, but I know. It's because of her. Because of Sophie. Michael Hartman, he starts, his voice low, like the hum of an engine. Tell me what happened. Everything. From the very beginning. I laugh. Short, sharp, like a bark. Start from the beginning? Which beginning? The day I put a ring on her finger, or the day she took it off to shove her hand down another man's pants? You wouldn't understand, I say. My voice trembles, but not from fear. From rage. This isn't just a story. This was my life. He taps his pen against the table. Tap, tap, tap. Like a metronome counting down to an explosion. We have witnesses. Evidence. Your wife, she told us her side of the story. My heart clenches like it's caught in a vice. Sophie. Her name is a knife between my ribs. I lean forward, the chains clinking. Her side? My voice is almost a shout. She's lying. Everything she says is filth. The detective doesn't blink. Just stares. Cold. Waiting. Then tell me yours, he says. Convince me. I lean back. The chair creaks. My head is buzzing, like wind rushing through the mountains where she supposedly went skiing. I close my eyes. Memories spill out, like blood from a wound. Fine. Let him listen. Let them know how she broke me. It all started 3 weeks ago, I say. She told me she was going on a trip with her friends. Skiing. Colorado. He nods. Jots something down. But I see her in front of me, Sophie. That angelic smile. Suitcase in her hand. Don't miss me, Michael. I'll be back in a few days. I believed her. Like a fool. I believed her. Back then, I didn't know she had already taken off her mask. That underneath, she wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger, ready to drive a knife into my back. And I had handed her the perfect target. 3 weeks ago, I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching Sophie pack her things. Her fingers flickered over the suitcase, light, quick, like a pianist's. Black jacket, sweater, thermal underwear. Everything for skiing. She hummed softly, as if it were just another ordinary day. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Who are you going with? I asked, my voice calm. At that point, I still had no suspicions. With Kate and Lisa, she replied without looking up. You know them? I did. Kate was her old friend from school, Lisa a colleague from work. Both decent women. Both married. I nodded. Call me if anything happens, I said. Weather's nasty out there right now. She smiled. That familiar smile, warm as coffee on a frosty day. She stepped toward me and kissed my cheek softly, her hair smelling of vanilla. I walked her to the car. Bye, Michael. The door slammed shut. The headlights flashed in the darkness. She drove away. 2 days of silence followed. I didn't call. I didn't want to seem clingy. Work consumed me. Meetings, courtrooms, clients. As a lawyer, I was used to digging into other people's lives, but never my own. I trusted her. God, how much I trusted her. On the third day, the phone rang. It wasn't Sophie, it was Kate. I answered, standing by the kitchen table, a mug of cold coffee in my hand. Michael? It's Kate. Are you okay? Her voice was anxious, sharp. Yeah. Are you? I frowned. Something was off. Look, this might sound strange. Did Sophie mention anything to you about a trip? My hand froze. Coffee nearly spilled out. Yes, she did. She said she went skiing. With you and Lisa. Colorado. Silence. Long silence. Then her voice, almost a whisper. Michael, I'm not in Colorado. I'm home. So is Lisa. We never planned anything. I set down the mug. My fingers trembled. A sharp pain pierced my chest, like a needle stabbing deep. What did you say? My voice sounded foreign, hoarse. Sophie didn't call me. I thought you two were away somewhere together. What's going on? I hung up without saying goodbye. A whirlwind erupted in my mind. She had lied. Straight to my face. But why? And with whom? I rushed into the bedroom. Her laptop lay on the nightstand, closed. The password, the date of our wedding. Irony. I punched in the digits. The screen flashed. Empty. No emails, no chats, no reservations. She'd cleaned everything. Smart. But I wasn't an idiot. A notebook lay on the table, her handwriting small and neat. I flipped through the pages. Shopping lists, reminders. Then an address. Breckenridge, 14, Pine Street. A ski resort 2 hours from Denver. Our Denver. No names, no dates. Just an address. I grabbed my car keys. My heart hammered like a mallet. She was there. I knew it. Felt it. My blood boiled. My fingers gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. 2 hours down the highway, snow lashing the windshield. I drove and imagined her, laughing, drinking wine, warming her feet by the fire. With someone else. Not me. By the time I turned onto Pine Street, darkness had already fallen. Number 14, a small cottage, lights glowing inside. Sophie's car stood out front. I killed the engine. Silence. Only the wind howled in my ears. I stepped out, walked toward the window, and saw them. She sat on the sofa, hair loose. Next to her, him. Some guy, about 30, wearing jeans and a sweater. His hand rested on her knee. Her laughter rang out, bright as a bell. My world collapsed, right there in the snow. I didn't scream, didn't storm inside, just stood there, watching. Then I turned around and left. It wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I drove back to Denver, and every mile tore me apart. My hands were slick against the steering wheel, damp with sweat. Snow pounded the windshield like 1,000 needles, but all I saw was her. Sophie. Her laughter. His hand. That cottage had become the grave of our marriage, and I was its first ghost. At home, I collapsed onto the couch. Silence pressed down on me. Our wedding photos sat on the coffee table, Sophie in white, me in a suit, both smiling. The glass of the frame had cracked when I dropped it last summer. She had said then, "It's just glass, Michael. No big deal." Now I stared at that crack and saw us. Shattered. Lies had seeped into every fracture. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind spun in endless circles. Why? We had been together for 7 years. She married me at 20. I was her first. First in everything. I thought that would be enough. But it wasn't. She needed more. Someone else. And me? I was just a blind fool. In the morning, I called my assistant, Cal. My voice was hoarse, like I'd spent the night drinking. "Cal, cancel everything. I'm not coming in today. You okay, boss?" His voice tightened with concern. "No. Just do it." I hung up. I needed to think. To act. The lawyer in me demanded facts, evidence. My rage screamed for destruction. Both sides battled, but fury was winning. I went back to her laptop. Nothing. Then I checked her car. Her spare key was in the drawer. In the glove compartment, I found a receipt from a bar in Breckenridge. 2 cocktails, $18. Dated 2 nights ago. She drank with him. I crushed the paper in my fist until it crumpled into a ball. My phone. I dialed her number. 1 ring. 2. She picked up. "Michael." Her voice was light, as if nothing had happened. "Where are you?" I kept my voice steady. "For now. At the resort. With the girls." "You know that." "With the girls." My voice darkened. Kate called me. "She's home, Sophie. Lisa too." Silence. I could hear her breathing. Then, "You must be confused. I'm with some other friends." "Who?" I growled. "Name them." "Michael, don't you trust me?" Her voice wavered. "A performance." "Address, Sophie. Pine Street, 14. I was there. I saw you." She gasped. Short, sharp. I waited. Finally. "It's not what you think. I can explain." "Don't bother." I snapped. "I saw everything. You. Him." I hung up. The phone flew across the room, cracking against the wall. Like that picture frame. Like me. She called back. Once. Twice. 3 times. I didn't answer. Let her suffer. Let her feel what I knew. I stood by the window, looking out over Denver, gray, cold. My city. My life. And hers? I would break it, piece by piece. In that moment, I made my decision. No divorce. No screaming. Revenge. It would eat away at her slowly, like rust on metal. I was a lawyer. I knew where to strike, where it would hurt the most. Her reputation. Her friends. Her job. Everything would crumble. And him? He would pay too. I sat down at the desk, took out a piece of paper, and started writing. A plan. Step by step. She thought I was broken. She was wrong. I was just getting started. I sat at the table, pen scraping across paper. The plan was simple. Destroy her world. Sophie loved her reputation. The perfect wife. The perfect colleague. The perfect daughter. She wore it like a medal, flashing it for everyone to admire. I knew exactly where to strike. Her weakness was people. Their opinions. That's where I'd start. In the morning, I called her boss, Ellen. Sophie worked at a PR agency, polishing the public image of high-profile clients. Ellen was strict, but fair. I dialed the number, my voice as steady as a lawyer before a verdict. Ellen, this is Michael Hartman, Sophie's husband. Michael? Hey, is everything okay? She sounded surprised. I rarely called. Not exactly, I said, pausing just long enough. Sophie's in some personal trouble, but it could affect your firm's reputation. What do you mean? Her voice tensed. She's having an affair. With some guy? I caught them. If this gets out, clients might start asking questions. Silence. Then, Jesus, Michael. Are you sure? Yes. I have proof. A bar receipt. An address. Photos, if you need them. I lied about the photos. For now. But Ellen didn't ask for confirmation. This is serious. If the press catches wind of it, she hesitated. Thanks for telling me. I'll handle it. I didn't want to involve you, I added, voice heavy with false concern. But I thought you should know. I hung up. First stone thrown. Ellen wouldn't fire her right away, but she'd start watching. Pressuring. Sophie would feel it. Next, her friends. I texted Kate. Short, sharp. Sophie lied about the ski trip. She's with some guy in Breckenridge. Tell Lisa. Her reply came in under a minute. What? Michael, are you serious? I sent her the bar receipt. Let the gossip spread. Sophie lived for their girls' nights. Now they'd turn their backs. I imagined her face. She'd come home to whispers behind her back. Her job under scrutiny. Friends distancing themselves. Panic creeping in. She'd start calling me. Begging. But I wouldn't answer. The phone buzzed. Sophie. Again. I watched the screen flash with her name. 5 calls. 6. Then a message. Michael, please, talk to me. This is a mistake. A mistake? I laughed. Dark, bitter. No, Sophie. The mistake was me, marrying you. I stepped onto the balcony. The cold Denver air bit at my face. Below, the city pulsed with life, indifferent. My life was crumbling, but I wouldn't break. She thought she knew me. That I was impulsive, emotional. And yeah, maybe I was. But I was also a lawyer. I knew how to wait. How to strike from behind. Next step, him. The lover. I didn't know his name. Yet. But that wasn't a problem. The receipt from the bar, the Mountain Stag. I called them. The bartender answered quickly. Hey, I said. I was there a couple of nights ago. Trying to remember the name of a guy at the bar. Early 30s, sweater, with a brunette. Oh, that's probably Justin, he said. Regular. Comes in with different women. You know him? Now I do, I muttered. Thanks. Justin. Perfect. Some random asshole screwing my wife. I'd find him. Crush him. But not with fists. Reputation is fragile. Especially for guys like him. I sat back down. The pen scraped against paper once more. Sophie was slipping. Her life was cracking at the edges. And I was just starting to tighten the screws. 2 days later, Sophie came back. I heard the key in the lock, sharp, like a gunshot. The door slammed. She stepped inside, her suitcase dropping by the entrance. Her eyes, red, furious. Her hair messy. She looked like she hadn't slept. Good. Let her suffer. Michael, she started. Her voice trembled. We need to talk. I stood by the window, back to her. Hands in my pockets. Silent. You ruined everything. She screamed. Ellen called. Said I have problems at work. Kate won't even answer my texts. What the hell did you do? I turned. Slowly. Looked her straight in the eyes. Panic. And hate. What I did. My voice was cold, like winter wind. What about you? Pine Street, 14. Justin. Ring a bell? She went pale. Took a step back, as if I'd struck her. You followed me? She whispered. Didn't have to. You left a trail. A receipt. An address. Lies. Her fists clenched. Her lips quivered. This isn't your business, Michael. I just wanted to live a little. For myself. You wouldn't understand. Live. I stepped toward her. 7 years, Sophie. 7. I was your first. And you spat in my face. I was suffocating. She shouted. You and your order, your cases, your perfect little life. I married you at 20. I didn't have a choice. I laughed. Loud. Cruel. Choice? You had me. And now you have nothing. She froze. Then straightened. Her eyes narrowed. You think you've won? She said quietly. You're wrong. She stormed into the bedroom. I heard drawers slamming. An hour later, she walked out, a bag over her shoulder. I'm leaving, she snapped. Going to my mom's. Divorce? Fine. But I won't let you in. The door slammed shut. Silence. I sank onto the couch, staring at the cracked frame. Her words spun in my head. I won't let you in. What did that mean? The answer came the next morning. My phone rang. Cal. Michael, are you home? His voice was tense. Yeah. What's wrong? The cops are here. At the office. Asking about you. Something about threats and property damage. I froze. My heart pounded. Threats? What property? I don't know, man. They mentioned Sophie. Said she filed a report. Michael, what the hell is going on? I hung up. Blood boiled in my veins. That lying bitch. Threats? Property damage? I hadn't touched a thing. But she knew how to play this. She knew I was a lawyer. She knew exactly where to hit me. I sped to the office. 2 cops were waiting at the entrance. One, young, with a notepad. The other, older, with hard, knowing eyes. Michael Hartman, the older one, said. Yeah. I snapped. What's this about? Your wife claims you threatened her. That you vandalized her car. We have witnesses. My fists clenched. Her car? I hadn't even gone near it. She's lying, I said, voice razor sharp. Maybe, he nodded. But we need to verify. Come with us. They led me away. The cuffs clicked around my wrists. I didn't resist. Yet. She thought she'd outplayed me. Let her think that. I'd find a way out. I always do. The cuffs came off after an hour. They let me go on a signature bond. No evidence, just her word. I stepped out of the station, Denver's cold air slapping me in the face like an open hand. The cops had said, we're waiting on the forensics for the car. Shattered glass, dent in the hood. Sophie told them I did it. Lies. I never touched her damn car. But she knew how to spread a rumor. At home, I dropped into the chair. My head throbbed. She set me up. How? When? I replayed her last look before she left, cold, sharp. I won't let you in. She had been planning this. While I was tearing down her reputation, she was digging my grave. My phone rang. Cal. Michael, are you okay? His voice was shaky. Still breathing, I muttered. What's new? Sophie called the office. Looking for you. She said she's scared. That you're not yourself. My grip tightened around the phone. Plastic creaked under my fingers. She's scared? Her? After everything? There's more, he added. A client was in the office when the cops showed up. Big one. Walked out when he heard about the police. Said he'll think about the contract. I cursed. She's hitting my work. My career. My lifeblood. I built it for years. And now? Cracks. Because of her. Thanks, Cal. Keep me posted. I tossed the phone. I needed to think. The car. Witnesses. She couldn't have pulled this off alone. Justin? Maybe he helped. I pictured him sweater, hand on her knee. Just some guy. But who was he? I grabbed my laptop. Typed Justin Breckenridge into search. Nothing. Then Mountain Stag Bar. Social media. Photos. There he is. Justin Reed. A comment from the bartender. Our regular. His profile was open. Works at an auto shop. Likes beer. Hiking. And my wife. I stood. I needed to go. Find out the truth. But first, the car. Where was it? At her mom's? I called. Alice, my mother-in-law, picked up. Michael. Her voice was stiff. What do you want? Sophie with you? I cut straight to it. Yes. And she doesn't want to see you. Where's her car? In the driveway. Why? The police say I trashed it. Is that true? Silence. Then. I don't know. She got here this morning. It was fine. After that. I didn't check. Go look. I snapped. She hesitated. Then I heard her footsteps. A minute later, she was back. The windshield shattered. The hood's dented. Michael, what are you doing? I hung up. It was fine in the morning. Smashed later. Sophie did it herself. Or Justin. They set me up. Smart. I almost admired it. Almost. I grabbed my keys. Time for answers. An hour's drive. Her mother's house old, peeling paint. Her car sat in the driveway. The windshield looked like a spider web. The hood? Bashed in, like someone took a hammer to it. I stepped closer. Glass shards on the ground. And something else. A key. Small. Metal. With a tag. Mountain Stag. Justin. The front door opened. Sophie. Hair wet. Robe wrapped tight. She saw me. Froze. Leave, Michael, she said. Firm. You did it yourself, I said. Or he did. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Then she smiled. Slow. Cruel. Prove it, she whispered. And walked inside. I stood there, looking at the key in my palm. She was playing. But so was I. And I was going to find Justin. I clenched the key so hard the metal bit into my skin. Mountain Stack. Justin. Was he just her pawn? Or something more? I drove to Breckenridge, 2 hours of white fury pounding against my windshield. Her voice echoed in my head, prove it. She had thrown down the gauntlet. And I would pick it up. The bar was nearly empty. Dim lights, the smell of beer and wood. The same bartender from before. He saw me, nodded. You again, he said. Looking for Justin? Where is he? My voice cut like a blade. He left an hour ago. Said he had business in Denver. Denver. So he was close. Maybe with her. I tossed a 10 on the counter. You know his address? The bartender shrugged. Not my business. But he works at Reed Auto. Outskirts of town. I walked out. Reed Auto. A repair shop. He could have trashed her car there. Smart move, Sophie. Very smart. I plugged the address into my GPS, 30 minutes away. The city was swallowed by night, streetlights flickering like watching eyes. The shop was closed. The gates chained, the lights off. But his truck sat in the lot, black pickup. I parked across the street and waited. My heart pounded, fingers tapping the wheel. 20 minutes later, the door creaked open. Him. Justin. Jacket on, duffel slung over his shoulder. He climbed into his truck, drove off. I followed. He didn't notice. Kept his speed steady. He pulled into a highway motel, Snowcap Inn. The neon sign flickered red. He parked, walked into room 12. A light flicked on inside. I killed my engine, watched. 10 minutes later, a taxi pulled up. Her. Sophie stepped out, knocked on the door. He opened it. They hugged. Quick. Tight. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. She hadn't just set me up. She was still with him. Right under my nose. I stepped out of my car. Moved closer. The window was slightly open. Their voices drifted out in pieces. Told you, he won't prove anything, Sophie was saying. The police are on my side. What if he finds out? Justin's voice. Low. Nervous. He won't. I threw the key away. I froze. The key. The one I found by her car. She had lied to him. Or was he lying to her? I pulled out my phone. Started recording. Their silhouettes against the motel light. Her hand on his shoulder. Evidence. Not for the police. For me. She left half an hour later. Climbed back into a taxi, disappeared into the night. I stayed. Justin stepped outside to smoke. I walked up. He saw me. His cigarette slipped from his fingers. Who the hell are you? He barked. Sophie's husband, I said. Stepped closer. Did you trash her car? He backed up. I starting. No. She did. Bullshit, I snapped. I have the key. Mountain Stack. Your bar. His face turned ghost pale. He lunged for his truck. I grabbed his jacket. Slammed him against the wall. He gasped. Talk, I growled. Or I'll break more than your career. It was her idea, he blurted. She said you were crazy. That we had to stop you. I let go. He slumped to the ground. Her idea. Of course. But he had helped. I walked away, leaving him in the dirt. Now I knew. She was playing dirtier than I thought. I drove back to Denver, the night pressing down on me like a concrete slab. The key burned in my pocket, searing into my skin like a brand. Justin had told the truth. I had seen it in his eyes. Sophie had planned everything. The wrecked car, the police, the lies. She wasn't just defending herself. She wanted to destroy me. At home, I flicked on the lights. The cracked picture frame stared at me from the coffee table. I picked it up, fingers tightening. The glass crunched, shards biting into my palm. Blood dripped onto the floor, slow, steady, like the time she had stolen from me. I hurled the frame at the wall. It shattered. Like us. My phone buzzed. A message. From her. Michael, stop. You're making this worse. Worse? I laughed. A low, ragged sound full of venom. She still had the nerve to text me? I typed back. You started this. I'll finish it. Sent. Then I turned my phone off. The next morning, I walked into the office. Kel met me at the door, his eyes wide. Michael, have you seen the news? He shoved his phone into my hands. The headline glared back at me. Wife of prominent attorney claims he threatened her life. Below, her photo. Sophie, tear-streaked, a bruise blooming on her cheek. I froze. A bruise? I had never touched her. Not once. She gave an interview, Cal said. This morning. Said you've been stalking her. Hitting her. My fist clenched, blood trickling again from the cut in my palm. Lies, I snarled. She did it to herself. Or Justin did. Prove it, he said quietly. Clients are leaving. The police called again. I shoved past him, slammed my office door shut. Sat down. Opened my laptop. The interview loaded slowly. Sophie sat in front of the camera, voice trembling. He changed, became aggressive. I feared for my life. I closed the screen. Enough. She was playing the victim. And I was the monster. Clever. Her PR skills at work. But I had my weapon. The motel video. Her and Justin. Proof of her lies. I could leak it. Expose her. But it wasn't enough. She had already won in the court of public opinion. I dialed Nick. A friend. A private investigator. His voice was tired but sharp. Nick, I need help, I said. Sophie set me up. The bruise, the car, all of it. Prove she's lying. He shot back. You got anything? A video. Her and the guy she's screwing. And a key from his bar. Not enough. You need witnesses. Or a mistake. Find it, I growled. Money's not an issue. Give me a day, he said, then hung up. I sat there, staring out the window. Denver buzzed below, indifferent. My life was caving in. Clients. Reputation. Freedom. She knew exactly where to hit. But I wasn't going down. That night, Nick called back. I found something, he said. Justin. Security footage from Reed Auto. Night Sophie's car got trashed. He was there. With a hammer. I exhaled slowly. Proof. There's more, Nick added. Sophie called him before the interview. I got the recording. My pulse quickened. What did she say? She told him, make the bruise look real. I went still. She staged it. Planned everything. Send me everything, I said, voice like steel. She thought I was broken. She was wrong. Now it was my move. Nick sent the files overnight. The security footage from Reed Auto, grainy but clear. Justin by Sophie's car. A hammer in his hand. A swing. Glass shattered. Another swing. The hood crumpled. Then, the phone call. Her voice. Make the bruise look real. Cold. Calculated. I listened, fist clenching. She hadn't just set me up. She had directed the whole thing. At dawn, I drove to Nick's office. He was waiting in his cramped space, the room thick with coffee and cigarette smoke. A pile of printouts on his desk. A flash drive. This is gold, Michael, he said, tapping the screen. They're both in on it. You can prove she's lying. I'm not just proving it, I muttered. I'm destroying her. I took the files. The plan was set. She wanted war? She'd get it. I wouldn't go to the police yet. First, I'd shatter her world. Her lies. Her mask. I called Ellen, her boss. My voice was steady, but inside, I was boiling. Ellen, it's Michael. I have proof. Sophie lied. Michael. She sounded caught off guard. She told me you threatened. Watch the video, I cut in. She's with her boyfriend. She wrecked her own car. That bruise? Fake. Silence. Then. Send it. If this is true, she's fired. It's on its way, I said and hung up. Next, Kate. I sent her the recording of Sophie's call with Justin. Spread the word. Sophie's a fraud. Within an hour, her phone was blowing up. I knew how their little circle worked. Gossip was Sophie's weakness. Now, it would eat her alive. That evening, I drove to Breckenridge. Mountain Stack. Justin was there, nursing a beer at the corner table. When he spotted me, his face turned pale. You again. He pushed back his chair. Sit down, I ordered, tossing the flash drive onto the table. Your work. The cameras caught it all. He froze. His fingers twitched. She said you'd never find. She was wrong, I cut in. Leave town. Or I take this to the cops. He snatched the flash drive and bolted. I knew where he was running. Straight to her. I waited. An hour later, Sophie called. Her voice sharp as a knife. Michael, what the hell are you doing? What you started, I said. Your career? Over. Your friends? Gone. Justin? He sold you out. You're insane, she shouted. I'll tell everything. About you. Your threats. Go ahead, I said. I have video. You have a bruise you faked. Silence. Then, the line went dead. I smiled. For the first time in weeks. She was falling. But I knew this wasn't over. She was too stubborn to lose. That night, I came home. A letter sat on my table. No signature, You think it's just her? Look closer. I frowned. What the hell was this? My phone buzzed. A text from Nick. I looked into Justin. He's not random. He worked with your firm 2 years ago. You fired him. I went still. Justin knew me? This wasn't just an affair. This was revenge. The two of them. Planning this. For a long, long time. And I, blind, naive, had walked right into it. I was back in that cursed interrogation room. The handcuffs cut into my wrists again. The detective stared at me like I was a caged animal. The recorder's red light blinked, waiting. I exhaled. It was time to tell them everything. Or almost everything. She set me up. I started, my voice raw with fury. Sophie. And Justin. This wasn't just an affair. They knew each other. 2 years ago, I fired him from my firm. For theft. He held a grudge. And she used him to destroy me. The detective tapped his pen. Tap. 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 Waiting. The car. That was them. I went on. There's security footage. Justin. With a hammer. The bruise. Her idea. I have a recording. She told him. Make it believable. They wanted me locked up. Wanted my career dead. You have proof. His eyes narrowed. Yes. My investigator. Nick Reynolds. Check with him. He nodded. Jotted something down. I leaned back. The chair creaked. My mind spun with images. Her face. That smile I had trusted. And Justin. His hand on her knee. They had spun this web long ago. And I was the fly, tangled in it. Why didn't you come to us sooner? He asked. I laughed. Short. Bitter. I wanted to handle it myself. Destroy her the way she destroyed me. He smirked. Stood up. We'll see what your guy says. Sit tight. The door shut behind him. Silence. I stared at my hands. The cut from the broken frame had scabbed over, but I could still feel the wound. Like her lies. Like my life. I had told them almost everything. The skiing trip. Kate. The address. My revenge. Her job. Her friends. Justin, shaking in the dirt outside that motel. But not everything. Not about the letter. You think it's her? Look closer. It was still in my pocket, burning against my skin. Who sent it? Nick? No. He would have told me. Someone else. Someone who knew more. The detective came back an hour later. His face unreadable. Your guy backed it up, he said. The video, the call, clean evidence. We called Sophie in. She's not talking. And Justin? He's gone. Skipped town. What now? I asked. For now? Nothing. We're still looking into it. But you're free to go. The cuffs clicked open. I stood, rubbing my wrists. Free. But not really. She had lost. Or had she? Her silence wasn't surrender. She was hiding something. Outside, Denver breathed ice into my lungs. Snow fell in slow, heavy flakes like ash. My phone buzzed. A message. No caller ID. You won the battle. The war is ahead. I froze. Her? Him? Or whoever sent that letter. I shoved my phone into my pocket. Stepped into the night. My life was in ruins. My career hung by a thread. My name was dragged through the mud. But I was alive. And I wasn't broken. They thought I would fall. They were wrong. I would find them. Both of them. And the one standing behind it all. Snow crunched beneath my boots. A siren howled in the distance. This story wasn't over. It was just beginning.